Hey peeps, we are back. We are talking The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 12, Episode 14, The Reunion Part 1. Hey, before we get into the video, please do me the honors of subscribing to my channel, hitting the notification bell so you can always be notified when I post new content, hitting the thumbs up because that does wonders for my channel, and share. Thanks. Okay, you guys, it is Friday the 6th, and I am just now watching the reunion show. I apologize, but sometimes my real life gets in the way. So there has definitely been a cast update, and I have to say that I'm kind of excited about it. So it seems that Jackie has been demoted to a friend of, which I think that they could have demoted Melissa, Jackie, and Marge to a friend of, but I'll take what I can get. They are introducing a new full-time housewife. Her name is Danielle. Her and her husband are friends with Teresa. They're also auditioning two new ladies who could possibly become housewives. A lady named Jennifer, who is a friend of Marge's, and a lady named Rachel, who is a friend of Melissa's. So this ought to be interesting. So I think this is going to be a very interesting upcoming season. So they start off with this montage of Jackie and Dolores, and Andy asked a question that I think was a bit much. He asked Jackie, I guess, and the rest of the girls, if they had met somebody in a dark alley, Teresa or Dolores, which one would they be afraid of, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure I'm not getting it quite right. And of course, Melissa and Marge and Jackie say Dolores because you know they don't want to admit that they are afraid of Teresa. They are absolutely afraid of Teresa. What I thought was weird is that Teresa was offended that they didn't say her. Why do you need them to be afraid of you? This makes no sense. If I really want to be friends with people, I don't want people to be afraid of me. I think it was just a little odd. Jackie says that she's not afraid of Dolores when Dolores approached her at her keg party, and I think that's an absolute lie. I think that Jackie was afraid of Dolores, but she also wanted to stand up for herself, and she had the rest of the girls there, plus security and her husband. Jackie says that when Dolores referred to her as this, she was really upset because she is an accomplished woman, and she felt dismissed by Dolores calling her this. I can understand that. I wouldn't want anyone calling me this. But I also need Jackie to know that just because you have a law degree does not make you better than anyone else. You're sitting on the stage with them as well. I really hate it when some people think because they have a degree or because they have money or because they have a nice home and a car that they're better than somebody else. No one is better than anyone else, in my opinion. So there was a lot of going back and forth of, is Teresa just as guilty for spreading the rumor about Jackie's husband possibly having an affair as Marge for putting Jennifer's business out there? I think yes. Teresa was wrong for bringing up Jackie's husband's alleged affair. That wasn't her business. It wasn't the right time or place. And if she was truly concerned about Jackie's relationship, she could have talked to Jackie about that one-on-one at a different time. Is Marge wrong for it? Absolutely. Marge had no business bringing up Jennifer's husband's affair that was 10 years ago. It wasn't necessary. Marge just wanted to do that because she was embarrassed and upset and angry at the way Jennifer handled her at the last reunion. Marge thought that it was okay to call Jen a concubine, say she was only with her husband because of his money. You know, Marge said some things to Jennifer that was horrible, just like Jennifer said things to Marge that was horrible. The three of them were all wrong. Jennifer was wrong, Marge was wrong, Teresa was wrong. The point is these women are all over the age of 40. Everyone needs to grow up and let it go. In my mind, Evan had an affair. Jackie cries too much, she argues too much, she brings it up too much for it to had only been a rumor. Marge also ticks me off when she made that comment about Jennifer's kids will be okay. They'll just go to therapy and they'll be all right. Marge, you and Joe having affairs on both of your partners caused a lot of hurt and pain to your children. I'm sure that one or two of them have gone to therapy. Your relationship with your kids is not the best. So why try to cause problems for her and her husband and their children? They also talked about Dolores telling Jennifer to stop crying, and Dolores said that she didn't mean any harm by it. She was only trying to be supportive and let her know to just be strong and not let the ladies get to her to the point where she was crying. I don't buy it. I really don't. Jennifer makes some kind of comment that she thinks that Dolores was only saying that because she didn't want to make her friend Marge look bad, and that's why she was telling Jennifer, don't cry. Jennifer said she actually did feel that she was being yelled at. Dolores sort of floated around in the friendship. One minute she was Team Jennifer, the next minute she was Team Marge. That's sort of true. This was not the best season for Dolores to show her loyalty when it comes to friendships. I just think that at some point, Dolores really was Team Marge. She took Marge's word for whatever Marge told her, and she didn't really look at Jen's side of the situation. You know, she was Team Jen, and then Marge said, well, she was digging into the situation. Then all of a sudden, she's Team Marge. Well, she was digging when she shouldn't have been. She was wrong for that. But that didn't have anything to do with Dolores. And Jen did ask the question, who brought it on the show, Dolores or Frank? Dolores says that she wasn't the one who brought it up.
I wasn't happy till she brought this up. You shut the up. That's when I said that. Yes, I was.
Is your marriage good or not?
Yes, it is.
And can act like it. You bet you made that.
I'm allowed to process. I'm allowed to cry, and I don't give a to show my feelings.
Is people who use the word and who talk about their crotch tasting like pineapples, clutching their pearls over the word dick.
I know, but
It's very classy. I think you're not classy.
Okay, all right. Okay. The analogy was not pre-announced.
I apologize for this. I already did, didn't I?
Yes.
You did, and then afterwards you were digging, but okay.
Prove it, bitch.
Her definition of friendship is being blindly loyal to one person and kissing their ass.
You were her puppet. You kissed her ass.
I'm one of the strongest women that you'll ever meet.
You're crying about a rumor. Why are you crying about a rumor if it's not true?
Then at some point, Dolores acted extremely childish. She looks over at Marge, Jackie, and Melissa and says she apologizes for sticking up for Jen. She's crazy. Grow up, Dolores. And did anybody notice while they were talking about Jennifer and her husband's situation, Jackie was over there smiling and laughing and giggling? I mean, she was acting real smug. And I said, I know the woman who hasn't been whining and crying for 2 seasons about an alleged affair is not over there giggling about this woman and her situation with her husband's affair. That was kind of weird. You know what? That's why she's friend of next season. Now, the question with why did Dolores throw Jackie under the bus by telling Jennifer that she made that comment about Bill sticking his you-know-what somewhere else? I have to agree with Jackie. Dolores did that to try to throw Jackie under the bus, but if you watch the episode, you will see in context, everybody said how they felt bad for Bill, and Jackie said, I don't feel bad for him. He's the one that went out and stuck his, in somebody else. I agreed with that. I really did. But I thought it was really odd when she came out and talked about calling somebody to see you next Tuesday and saying their stuff tastes like pineapple. Well, that wasn't Dolores or Jennifer. That was Teresa. So I don't know why Jackie brought that up, but I did think it was quite comical that Teresa said that Jackie didn't have any class. Teresa, ma'am, neither do you. You really don't. And, money can't buy you class. And that is the truth. And you know what, Teresa? I'm sorry. You do not announce an analogy. You don't come out and say, well, hey, I'm going to give you an analogy. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And the whole follower comment. Jackie, you have been all the way up Marge's ass this entire season. And Jennifer has also been up Teresa's ass. So the fact that you, the pot, wants to call the kettle black is so crazy to me. Both of you, it's nuts. Like Teresa said, Jackie and her were cool. They went golfing. They went to play tennis. Marge decided that she hated Teresa. All of a sudden, so does Jackie. That doesn't make sense. She all of a sudden came out on the Tennessee trip and said, Oh, I never forgave Teresa. I knew she wasn't giving me an apology. Really? You never forgave her? That was after Marge decided she didn't like her. Give me a break. You got the nerve to call Jennifer a follower.
And you're having your new sister-in-laws.
Yes, I speak to them like all the time.
Just asked her if she was hurt.
This is the thing, honey. We're not close.
I have been there holding her mother's hand while her mother was in the hospital. Father-in-law was in the hospital. It was you, me, and your brother. I think you should remember what family is. I'm more your family than those girls you met 1 year ago.
I don't feel close to you.
You had your whole, you and Louie's family at a table, and me and your brother and your nieces and nephews were at the friend table.
And I'm a good friend to you. No, you're not. No, you're not.
You shouldn't have had the wedding while you were pregnant.
Yes, good sister-in-laws.
Guys, like, come on.
Some examples of when you had her back.
Let's roll tape.
I didn't say it. You're high half the time.
Okay.
You know how much pot she smokes?
I know. You were so upset when Teresa didn't defend you during your fight at the shore with Jennifer, but you didn't say anything when Margaret came after Louie.
See, I don't see Margaret ever saying a negative word about Louie on the show.
If Louie was involved with the girls, I would be like, yeah, babe, can
that's where I get upset with you, man.
He's a little too much involved. That's
Well, guess what? I love it that he's involved, and we invited him here.
It's called the Housewives.
Oh, Judice was here a few reunions.
Oh,
All the rest of the
would
men
not get involved with girls. Sorry, he wouldn't get involved.
You know what? It's a show, honey.
Okay, and a real man wouldn't keep saying to me. I keep telling you, I'm trying to apologize.
You're annoyed
Oh,
that
I'll do it right back at you, bitch girl. Oh, my
Okay.
God. Yeah.
Tell you what makes a man, honey.
You don't call me honey.
Loves
Good for
their
you.
woman and puts them on a pedestal. That makes a
Good,
man.
good for you.
That's how I was
All right.
raised.
Well, your behavior that night was a little bitch girl.
I'll be
you
a
were
bitch
too
boy
much
all you want,
involved.
honey.
And bitch boy, I'm sorry, Joe, you're kind of like a housewife. Sorry, you are.
I'm a bitch now.
What, because he's in the...
I quit. It was, listen,
Good luck,
12 years.
everyone.
I love you.
Stuff.
Now, Teresa saying that she was never in love with Joe, that was different. I was not expecting that. And you could tell by Melissa and Marge's face, they weren't expecting her to say that either. Dolores explains her comment that she made about Teresa being like a dog out of the shelter, and I didn't take it offensive. I knew exactly what she meant. Teresa had been battered and bruised and have taken so much from her past relationship that now that she's with Louie, somebody who is treating her respectfully and showing her love, now she's really dedicated and close to him. Just like a dog from a shelter when they have been abused, and then all of a sudden they start to get all these love, hugs, pets, toys, good food and water, and taking on walks and baths and things like that. They love their new owner. And I'm not saying that Louie owns Teresa. Please don't say that. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying. Teresa has still not decided to get a prenup with Louie. Andy pretty much begged her to get a prenup. He was letting her know that so many other housewives, people all over, have been saying she needs a prenuptial agreement. She says that Louie has more money than her and that you get married for love. I agree with that. You do get married for love. However, when you are divorcing someone, you're not as happy and not filled with joy and love anymore. At that point, people can be extremely vindictive, difficult to work with, difficult to talk to, and ready to take your head off. You have got to protect yourself and your daughters. You don't know what Louie might want at the end of this relationship. She needs to be smart. Get a prenup. So then they talk about that engagement party, and we find out that Dolores was not invited. And it was a little weird because Teresa says that they only invited couples that they hang out with. I said, oh, wow. Dolores has been your friend for over 20 years, and she was not invited? Then we find out Melissa and Joe were invited, but they were set at a different table. It turns out that Teresa, her children, Louie and his entire family sat at one table, and she put Joe and Melissa and their kids at a total separate table. Then she says that she didn't do the seating arrangement. No, ma'am, I don't buy that. I really don't. I don't buy it at all. And if that had been me, and I found out that my sibling and her children and husband were sitting at a separate table, I would have rearranged that whole place to get my sister and her family at our table. But I think Teresa just didn't want them there. Melissa is also not a bridesmaid. Melissa did say that she was not upset at first when she found out she wasn't a bridesmaid because she believed that it was just going to be Teresa and her daughters. However, she found out that it's Louis' sisters that are going to be her bridesmaids. So she is really pissed off because she says that she has been Teresa's sister-in-law for 20 years and she's only known Louis' sisters for a year. Well, Teresa mentioned that her and Melissa are not close. The truth is, we could tell from the show that they are not close. They are not friends like that. You know, Melissa says that she never said anything bad about Teresa or Louis all season. That is not true. And even if you didn't say anything bad about Teresa or Louis all season, you sat around with the rest of the girls and listened to them talk about her and Louis like garbage and never stood up for them. You and Joe. Teresa says that Louis asked Joe to be a part of the wedding and Joe said no because Melissa was not included. And that is his right. Melissa then brings up that she was there for Teresa and Joe's mom. She was there for their father. And I was really appalled by that because as Joe's wife, that is what you are supposed to do. If you truly love them, you are there for your in-laws. You have been married to him for 20 years. Did you expect an award or a cookie? You're supposed to get points for being a good daughter-in-law? They also make this question about Teresa wants loyalty from Melissa, but when has she ever backed Melissa up? And Teresa, for some reason, couldn't come up with anything. And then they have this fake power outage. And then she remembers that she did insist that Jennifer apologize to Melissa and Joe, or she couldn't be friends with her anymore over the whole incident that happened down at the shore. And I sat there staring at the TV and I said, wait a minute. Remember that time that Jackie and everybody was talking about Melissa's nose jobs and her face, how it was before? And Teresa stood up to Jackie about that. Or the time that Melissa dumped that birthday cake and Siggy was acting a fool and embarrassed. I thought that was rude too, that whole birthday cake situation. But Teresa stood up to Ziggy for Melissa. Or the time that she told that realtor that she would not let her sell her house until she made things right with Joe. Teresa has stood up for them before. It's funny how Bravo, all of a sudden, their production team couldn't scramble and put in any clips. It's just clear that Melissa and Teresa don't get along. You know, Teresa is a bit delusional too. When she makes that stupid comment that Melissa should have planned her wedding around her pregnancy. What the hell? Girl, get over yourself for real. Nobody is planning their wedding around you. This is this woman's marriage. She's supposed to put it off for your 9 months and then give you a couple times to get your snapback going. Get the hell out of here, Teresa. You done lost your damn mind. Then there was the segment where Joe was going back and forth with Jen. She called him a crook and all of this other stuff. Joe, you are a male chauvinist. And it's not good for you to sit around here and call women honey and fake air slap women and things like that. You are a chauvinist. You can give us the whole, I put my wife on a pedestal. No, you don't. Boy, stop playing. And why didn't they show the flashback with Marge calling him a chauvinist? Jennifer is allowed to defend herself, and they are absolutely right. He is a bitch boy and a bitch girl because he is always in women's business. And then him and Joe, the other Joe, had the nerve to tell Louis, just stay out of the women's business. Okay, when you do, get the hell out of it. And why was it okay when Nene told Peter that he needs a peach because he's a bitch and he's being in housewife business? But oh my gosh, Andy is in an uproar over them telling Joe about him being a little bitch girl. I mean, seriously. And then he's out in public wearing his little bitch boy shirts. He is a fame whore. Period. That man is a misogynist. There is no way that Joe has any intentions of quitting the show. That man loves to be the center of attention. He is a fame whore. And I agree with everything Teresa and Jennifer said. He is always in women's business. Stay the hell out of women's business. And the comment that Andy made about Joe, Judice makes comments about Joe as well. That is true. And I hope that Teresa and Gia really are telling him, you know what, we've asked him to stop making comments about you. Please stop making comments about him. It's only right. But did anybody hear that comment that Andy made? Andy said he's only doing that for the money. What is that about? What is this about? It seems that Andy, for some reason, is really Team Joe Gorga. I don't know what that's about. I thought it was also crazy when Teresa tried to bring up the whole Caroline and Kathy situation from way back in was it season 3 or season 2? And Andy said, oh, we can't go all the way back there. Like, nobody is going to do that. There was a point where Teresa was having a conversation with Joe and Jennifer was jumping in. I do appreciate that Melissa said, Jennifer, stop, let them talk about it. I agree with that. At some point, Jennifer decided to be Emily from the Orange County, and she was just jumping in on everything. Be quiet over there. Anyway, I cannot believe this is going to be a 3-part reunion. I really think that they could handle this in one more episode, but I guess we'll be watching. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think. And until next time.